Welcome to the wonderful world of Tekken. I'm Phi, I go by PhiDX, and I want to give you all the tools you'll need to learn Tekken and navigate it as a beginner. Since Tekken is known to be a very confusing and complicated game, my goal is that, by the end of this video, you'll be able to understand what's happening on screen, figure out how you want to play, and continue learning past the basics. You ready? Tekken buttons map the controller's face buttons to the character's 4 limbs. We call left punch 1, right punch 2, left kick 3, and right kick 4. Directions are more simple. We say forward and back based on how your character is facing. Up and down don't change. Down forward means pressing down and forward at the same time. So if I say back 1, you would hit backward and left punch at the same time. If I said down forward 1 plus 2, you would press that diagonal down forward and both punch buttons at the same time. Here's how the buttons map to physical controllers. Take a screenshot if you need it. I also highly recommend binding extra buttons. A pad has 4 triggers and 2 analog stick buttons, and most arcade sticks and hitboxes have 8 buttons. By default, R1 is your heat burst or heat smash, and R2 is your rage art, but personally I recommend changing these around. Mapping a 1 plus 2 button and a 3 plus 4 button, for example, is useful. And mapping 1 plus 4 and 2 plus 3 might be easier on the hands. I've included a recommended button mapping here, and my own just in case you were curious what I use. I map 2 plus 4 in order to have quick access to parries. There's some other notation we use as well, and I'll be sure to point it out when we get there. So now you know your buttons and how to name them. Let's get moving. As one might expect, forward moves you forward, and back moves you backward. Double tapping forward gives you a forward dash. Double tapping back gives you a back dash. If you're really far from your opponent, forward will actually make you forward run instead of just forward dash. Hold down to crouch, and this is rarely used, but you can hold up to jump. Tap up quickly to sidestep into the background, or away from the screen. Tap down quickly to sidestep into the foreground, or towards the screen. If you get a jump or a crouch, you held the button too long. If you want to side walk, which is like an extended sidestep, do a double tap and hold the second direction. Since sidestepping leaves you vulnerable to being hit, you can't block while sidestepping, I consider it an intermediate level technique. I recommend really nailing forward and backward movement first. If you do want to start sidestepping, I recommend inputting back immediately after your sidestep so that you block after your attempt to dodge. Now I know you didn't pay $60+ to block, but this is pretty important. There are 2 ways to block. Hold back to stand guard, hold down back to crouch guard or duck. Now Tekken attacks come as highs, mids, and lows. Highs are generally fast moves with low risk. Highs can be blocked by stand guarding or evaded by ducking. Mids are usually slower than highs but have better reward. Most combo starters or launchers are mid attacks. Mids are also blocked by stand guard, but if you're crouching, mids will hit you. Lows exist to stop your opponent from stand guarding all day, since stand guard beats highs and mids. Lows must be crouch guarded or jumped over. Yes, throws also exist to break stand guard spammers, but that's a whole different section later on. The mix-up between mids and lows is probably the most core fundamental in Tekken. Use your lows to make them duck. Use your mids to blow them up for ducking. Highs are often used to interrupt opponents' attacks or movement. There are tons of exceptions, but these are the basics. Unlike many 2D fighters, we'll be spending most of our time in Tekken stand blocking, since mids are usually where characters get the most reward. There are a couple special cases to know. A move that's special mid or special low can be blocked by crouching and standing. There's also a more advanced technique for beating lows. If you read that a low is coming, you can press and hold down forward as the attack is just about to hit you. If your timing is good, you'll execute a low parry and get a mini combo opportunity. Special lows can be low parried, but special mids cannot be low parried. So every Tekken move is going to be a high, mid, or low. But there are additional properties that these moves can have too. Homing attacks are moves that cannot be sidestepped or sidewalked, no matter what. The move will have light blue trails to indicate that it's homing. Power crush attacks are moves that have armor on startup. The armor loses to lows and throws. Tornado attacks are part of Tekken 8's new combo system. After launching, you can use a tornado attack to set them up for more combo hits. You only get 1 tornado per combo. Some moves will use your tornado as soon as they hit, like Jin's Electric Wind Hook Fist. There are 3 other types of move properties that don't have a fancy symbol in the move list, but they're pretty important. A counter hit occurs when you intercept an opponent who is starting to attack you. Some moves are pretty underwhelming regularly, but become insanely strong when they hit as a counter hit. For example, Azucena's 1+2 doesn't do much on regular hit, but on counter hit, it will give you a full combo. Guard break moves guarantee a follow-up even if you block them. They give this glass shatter effect on the screen. Usually, a guard break will either be a high that you can duck, or a charged move that you can sidestep. Some guard breaks are also parryable, so you'll have to experiment to figure out what will counter a specific character's guard break. Finally, charge moves gain new properties when you hold down the attack button used. Some charge moves just give some more frame advantage. Some will wall splat you even if you block them. And some are full-on guard breaks. Most charge moves are unparryable, so you have to sidestep them or counter hit them if you're very brave. Some moves are also completely unblockable, but these are usually so slow that they're rarely used. Tekken 8 also has a huge focus on heat engagers as a new type of move. We'll cover heat in a separate section later. If you're a returning Tekken player, throws have changed a lot in Tekken 8. They've thrown so many of the rules out the window. I didn't mean to write that pun in. In general, throws are high attacks that can be escaped, also known as broken, on reaction. Unlike Street Fighter, you're not guessing if they threw you or not. Instead, you react to your opponent's arms. If their left arm comes out first, break the throw with the left punch button, 1. If their right arm comes out first, break with 2, the right punch button. If both arms come out at the same time, break with both punch buttons, 1+2, at the same time. With practice, these escapes are all reactable. However, if you got counter hit by a throw, the escape window becomes almost impossibly small. Now here's an overview of each type of throw and their counterplay. First, we have generic throws. Every character can do a generic throw by pressing 1+3 and 2+4. For generic throws, you can actually break the throw with any punch button. However, I want you to forget that I just said that. You'll want to learn to break those properly because of command throws. These are visually identical to generic throws, but strictly follow the throw break rules I just mentioned. 1 to break left arm throws, 2 to break right arm throws, 1+2 for two-handed throws. If you skip learning your breaks, these will body you. If this sounds like a lot, remember that you can always duck throws if your opponent gets predictable with them. That said, I'll be making a separate guide for a throw break practice routine. It's a core fundamental, but it does take some work. Some throws have insanely weird animations with unique breaks. For example, this is Law's forward 2+3, and it's broken with 1 left punch. Azucena has a low grab, but it's more like a low attack. All you have to do is crouch before it hits you. Lars can jump in the air and grab you. This is broken with 1+2. The most obnoxious are King's throws. They have this unique animation that's fully ambiguous. You have to guess whether to break with 1 or 1+2. It's literally rock, paper, scissors unless you know for sure the throw is coming and you duck it. I'll cover King in a separate guide. Some characters can grab you while you're grounded, and you break with either 1 or 2. Like King's throws, these are visually ambiguous, so you have to guess the break. Finally, if that wasn't fun enough, in Tekken 8, many throws that come from stances are inescapable. King's Jaguar Run throw and Reina's Sentai throws are a few examples. You have to duck these on a read, which opens you up to mids. I know, I don't like them either. If that wasn't annoying enough, some throws can hit you crouching. As of Tekken 8, these are all unbreakable. Also, if a throw hits you while you're power crushing or parrying, it's completely unbreakable. You can't escape it. Those were the basics of attack and defense. Now we want to make sure you always know what your character is doing. In Tekken, your character can exist in many states. Depending on what state you're in, you gain access to new moves, and lose access to other moves. Because these states modify your character's actions, I think it's useful to think of them as stances. Standing is your default stance. It's how you start the round. By holding down, down back, or down forward for a little bit, you'll enter the crouching state. In Tekken notation, we call this full crouch, or FC. Some moves are only accessible from full crouch, and you can find these moves in the move list by looking for while crouching. Now say you were crouching for a bit, and then you release down to stand back up. This small window of time where you begin to stand up is considered a stance. In the move list, these are noted as while rising moves. Confusingly, the notation for this is called WS for while standing. Why don't we notate it as WR? The ancient arcade veterans decided that WR means while running. It describes when your character sprints toward the opponent and takes at least 3 steps. The universal options are while running 1+2, a running cross chop, and while running 4, a low slide that knocks down. Related but different is the instant while running state. By tapping forward, forward, forward very quickly, characters can use their unique while running moves instantly. If you ever fight Azucena, you better believe that's what she's up to. Note that from instant while running, you can't do the generic mid cross chop or low slide. Those moves require your character to take at least 3 steps. Jumping is another unique state, and some characters have unique jumping moves. But again, these are rarely used since you can't block while jumping. Although jumping itself isn't very useful, you do land in crouch, so some people will use this as a setup to get into a while standing or full crouch move instantly. So keep an eye out for that. Now, back turn is a stance you'll probably rarely see unless your character is designed to use it. Since you can't block in this stance, most characters' priority is just to get out of it. You can hold back or down back to block like normal, it just takes a bit longer because your character has to turn around. From back turn, you have unique kicks and punches. They're pretty fast, just pretty low reward. They're all decent except for the hop kicks. The back turn hop kicks aren't very good. If your character has a dedicated back turn state, chances are they're built for it, so learn all of the moves. They're really, really good. The rage state activates when you drop to low health, right at this tick mark on the health bar. You deal more damage and can activate your rage art with down forward 1+2. Rage arts are cinematic special attacks that have super armor. They're immune to all attacks and throws and must be blocked. If the rage art user's HP is low, the rage art does more damage. The last character state is the grounded state, which demands its own section. Tekken is one of the few fighting games that does not force you to stand up when you're knocked down. Instead, lying down is also treated as a stance. Tekken is famous for being extremely punishing once you're on the ground, so let's start with the quick tips before we get into the details. If you take away nothing else from this video, just remember this one thing. When you get knocked down and your character hits the ground, you can mash a button to execute a quick roll, aka tech roll. This gives you brief invincibility frames and quickly rolls you up to standing again. 99% of the time, tech rolling is good. If there's an exception, you'll find out very quickly when someone hits you with a unique setup, and then you'll know not to do it next time. Tech rolling with 1 or 2 moves you away from the screen. Tech rolling with 3 or 4 moves you toward the screen. Now say you couldn't or didn't tech, and now you're on the ground. You have a few safe options as well. Tap up to stand up quickly. Hold back to wake up backwards and generate a bit more space. Press down back to wake up and immediately block low. Remember that mids will hit you though. Tap 1 to side roll away from the screen. Tap down 1 to side roll towards the screen. To extend your roll, hold the down input. For the background roll, you have to tap 1 and then hold down. It's a bit weird. Side rolling or staying down for a bit can throw off your opponent's timing. The mind games around wake-ups and mix-ups are called okazemi, or oki for short. You can also attack from the grounded position. Press 3 to do a low get-up kick. Press 4 to do a mid get-up kick. These get-up kicks are completely safe on block. Press both kick buttons, 3+4, to do a spring kick. It's neat once in a while to break your opponent's momentum, but can get you launched if you get predictable. Press down 4 or down 3 to do a toe kick. This is the fastest attacking option and is great for ending rounds or escaping wake-up mix-ups. But, like the spring kick, is also very punishable. If you hit the toe kick, your character will roll backwards and make space. You'll be in crouch after the roll, so you can sneak in a cheeky while standing launch attempt if they chase you down. If you roll forward, then press 1+2, you can do a rolling cross chop. You can mix and match different wake-up options, so be sure to experiment. Sometimes though, you'll get knocked down in a different position than the normal face-up, feet towards position. In these cases, be careful waking up with back or up, because your character will stand up with their rear exposed. For that reason, if you're face up, feet away, or if you're face down, feet towards, be careful about waking up right away. I like to do a long side roll because it sets me up for a safe wake up. Also, from these non-standard grounded positions, you'll only be able to use the get up 3 and get up 4 as your attacks, and they'll be faster or slower depending on your position. To recap, I recommend usually getting up with back, up, or down back to block. Staying down and side rolling, or delaying your wake up, is also great for avoiding mix-ups. Of course, if your opponent is getting too aggressive, a get-up kick can work, but I usually prefer getting up first and then worrying about attacking. Let's move on. Tekken 8 is a very stance-heavy game where many moves and strings will transition into stances, forcing you to guess for your life. It's important to identify the key mix-up threats. For example, Steve's Lionheart stance has a guard break that's a high. Ducking is actually a lot scarier though, because he has a heat engager and a launcher as well that are both mid. Knowing the risk-reward of your opponent's stances is going to be crucial in your Tekken 8 journey. There's not a lot of ways to mitigate these mix-ups outside of preventing your opponent from getting into stance in the first place. This usually means you'll want to run your own mix-ups and stop them from playing as much as possible. One generic rule: If your opponent hit you and then they go into stance, then most of the time you can't sidestep or hit a button. You just have to guess what stance option they'll do. If you blocked their transition into stance, then you probably can answer with movement or a button. As always, you'll want to confirm your defensive options in practice mode, or by talking to someone with more experience. We finally finished the basic Tekken mechanics. Now let's talk about Tekken 8's systems. In Tekken 8, you can take damage while blocking. This is called chip damage. Some special moves deal chip damage, and in heat mode, all of your moves deal chip damage. However, chip damage is not permanent and can be healed. This is shown as a gray segment of the health bar. Gray health is healed by attacking. Even if your attacks are blocked, you heal the same amount of gray health. Moves that hit you while you're standing will take away little pieces of gray health. And some characters have moves that instantly delete all gray health. And finally, if you get hit by a rage art, you'll also lose all of your gray health. I've said gray health like 40 times now. Now it's time to finally talk about the heat system. Heat is your character's god mode, available every round. In Heat, you deal increased chip damage and gain an enhanced moveset. The moveset enhancement is character specific. Kuma unlocks access to electrics when he's in Heat, and King's Jaguar Run becomes armored when he's in Heat. Every character benefits differently, so you'll have to do some exploration to understand how everyone powers up. There are two ways to enter Heat. The first one is Heat Engagers. Every character has moves that have this purple fire effect when they swing. If this move hits, you automatically enter Heat mode and sprint at the opponent with a full heat gauge, 15 seconds of time. You also heal a huge amount of gray health. The other method is a Heat Burst. Press 2+3 or the Heat Burst button. Your character strikes a pose and does an armored mid. You can use this at any time, but you only get 2/3 of your heat gauge if you do. The Heat Burst also functions as a combo extender that doesn't use your tornado. If you realize you're too far away, you can double tap back to cancel the attack so that you don't whiff. You'll still go into Heat though. Once you enter Heat mode, your meter drains as time passes. The gauge freezes, however, if you deal damage to your opponent is lying down, or you're taking hits from your opponent. Aside from that, the heat gauge is spent in a few different ways. Heat smashes are mini super moves. Once you're in Heat mode, press 2+3 to use your Heat Smash. When you use a Heat Smash, it consumes all of your remaining heat gauge. Heat Smashes can be high, mid, or low, so be sure to know what Heat Smash you're dealing with based on the matchup. Some characters like Lily have multiple Heat Smashes depending on their stance. You can also spend your heat using a Heat Dash, and it's absolutely one of my favorite mechanics. Once you're in Heat mode, throw out a Heat Engager and hold forward to Heat Dash. On block, you get a free mix-up. On hit, some Heat Dashes turn into full launchers. Others just give you a mini combo. It's very character and move specific. Using a Heat Dash mid-combo works as another combo extender. There are some special rules here though. More info in the combo section later in this video. Finally, almost every character has enhanced moves that spend some heat. This is going to be different for every character. We saw examples of this at the start of this section. Lars gets a new stance transition and stronger stance moves. Kuma gained a new move, and Dragunov's tackles became unbreakable. Some characters can actually regenerate heat too. Everybody is so different, so you'll have to look at each character. So that's the heat system. Not too complicated, right? So I mentioned in the beginning that the mid-low mix-up in Tekken is a core fundamental. Well, if the game were just guessing mids and lows constantly, we'd just be in a coin flip simulator with pretty graphics. The beauty of Tekken is how different ranges and movements can counter entire game plans. So let's talk about what movements you should probably learn. Movement in Tekken 8 is pretty beginner friendly. By pressing back over and over again, you can create space at a decent speed. If you watch high-level gameplay though, you may see the players backdashing way more quickly. This technique was developed over 20 years ago, and we call it the Korean backdash. The method involves using a crouch to cancel your backdash's cooldown so that you can backdash again faster. Luckily, with Tekken 8's new changes, you can play a lot more of the game without ever learning a Korean backdash. But I definitely recommend learning it still. I think fluid spacing is crucial, and with 5 minutes a day and the right method, it does not have to be a painful experience to learn it. I have a quick 3-minute Korean backdash guide, be sure to check it out. Aside from that, I recommend building the muscle memory of sidestep guard. Sidestepping exposes you to not only homing moves, but delayed timing moves. Notice that when Law does jab down forward 2, I can sidewalk. But when Law does jab delay down forward 2, he catches my sidewalk. This is why we want to sidestep guard. We can sidestep the immediate move and then block the delayed move. As for when to sidestep, remember this one rule. We sidestep moves, not characters. People love saying things like, oh, just sidewalk Brian to the left. And while that might work for some moves, most characters have options to cover their, quote, weak side. That said, there's nothing wrong with experimenting in-game. Different spacings and situations can change how a move tracks. So the more you try, the more you'll learn. I'm not going to do an exhaustive breakdown of frame data here, but I want to do just enough to get you started. When we say 10 frame move or 15 frame move, we're just describing how fast the character's attacks come out. The game calls the speed of the move the attack startup frames. Frames are just how the game measures speed. The less startup frames a move has, the faster it comes out. So if two players do a move at the same time, the smaller number wins. Jin's move is faster, so he interrupts Kazuya's move. If both players do attacks with the same startup frames, then the attacks will hit at the same time. We call that a trade. Take a look at the in-game frame data display. After a move hits or is blocked, you get either plus or minus frames. Plus frames mean you have advantage and can act sooner. Minus frames mean you're at a disadvantage and your opponent can act sooner. Sometimes you'll be so negative that your opponent can actually hit you before you can block. Victor's while standing 1 is guaranteed here because Nina at minus 37 is still just trying to stand up. For most characters, the fastest move in Tekken is the 10 frame jab. That means if you find yourself at minus 10, your opponent gets guaranteed jabs on you. You went minus 10, so a 10 frame move will hit you. If you go down to minus 15, your opponent can hit you with a 15 frame move. When one character has so much disadvantage that their opponent can hit them for free, we call this a punish. Learning to punish your opponent's minus frames is a great way to get free damage on them. Tekken characters are balanced around the fact that their strongest moves can usually get them killed. For example, Brian has a low called Snake Edge. It's not just a combo starter. It can go under highs and under mids. The move is only allowed to be this good because it's minus 26 if you block it. At minus 26, every character can punish Brian and get a combo. If you take away the fact that they can die for even trying this, then the move becomes insanely overpowered. That's why knowing your punishment is important. If you don't punish your opponents, all of their moves become boss character moves. The two magic numbers you want to remember are minus 10 and minus 15. As soon as someone is minus 10 or worse, you get your jab punish. As soon as someone is minus 15 or worse, you get to launch them. Some characters don't have 15 frame launchers, but you'll learn that pretty quickly when you look at tutorials or guides. If your character doesn't have a 15 frame launcher, it's not the end of the world, it usually means they have stronger tools elsewhere. Punishment goes a lot deeper once you dig into specific frame values, but if you're feeling overwhelmed, here's what I recommend. From standing, learn your minus 10 and minus 15 punishers. Those are the magic numbers I was talking about. From crouching, learn your minus 11 and minus 15 while standing punishers. These will make sure that you can block and punish almost every low. With these 4 punishes, you can punish almost every standing move and almost every crouching move. We want to build the habit of blocking a move that's unsafe and making sure we get our damage for it. The in-game punishment training is actually a great learning tool, but it doesn't cover every move and situation, so you'll have to do your own homework later. Okay, that was a really long section. Where were we again? Plus frames mean you have advantage and can act sooner. Oh yeah, plus frames. Okay, so when you have plus frames, you can act first before your opponent. The more plus frames you have, the harder it is for your opponent to fight back. Take a look at this example. Jin does a down forward 4 and it's blocked. The frame data says he has 0 frame advantage. What happens here if both characters do their 10 frame jab? Well, I see 0 frame advantage, meaning nobody is faster than the other. If they're both doing 10 frame moves at the same time, then I would expect the moves to trade. Let's see what happens. And look at that, they traded. Nobody had an advantage, and they did a move of the same speed. Another example. Jin hits a down back 4. The frame data says he has plus 3 frame advantage. What happens now if both characters do their 10 frame jab? So I see this time Jin has 3 frames of advantage. So even though it's going to be a 10 frame jab versus another 10 frame jab, Jin gets to start 3 frames sooner. So I expect Jin to hit first. Of course Jin hit first. I made this video. I know what happens. In all seriousness, I know frames can be very confusing, so please don't feel bad if this didn't make very much sense. I'll link some videos in the description that explain frames way better than I do. In short, if you have plus frames, it's easier to hit your opponent, and hitting your opponent is the goal of the game. Now let's talk about combos. In Tekken, if you open up the move list, you'll see entries with button presses strung together. We don't call these combos, we call these strings. It's rare that every move in a Tekken string is guaranteed to hit. Usually, an opponent can block in between some of the string's hits. You can tell that if the combo counter resets, the string is not what we call natural, meaning every hit is guaranteed. Looking at the combo counter is one way, but the foolproof method is to go to practice settings, opponent actions, and set them to standing. Then for action after hit or block, set them to block all. Now, if the string is not natural, they'll block in between the hits. If the string is natural, every hit will go through. While we're on the topic of strings, really quickly, I want to talk about jailing. Most strings that have highs in them can be ducked. If you duck a high in a string, you can usually punish them. However, a jailing string is a string with a high that cannot be ducked. Azucena's down forward 1-4 is a common example. This is very common in Tekken 8, so be sure to practice. Anyways, back to combos. When Tekken players say combos, we're talking about launching an opponent in the air and then continuing to juggle them while airborne. Your best bet for combos, in my opinion, is to find a combo video and look for the easy bread and butter combo that you can copy. The in-game sample combos have also gotten very good. They may not be max damage or max wall carry, but they help to build the intuition of how you're supposed to combo with your character. So while you go look up optimal combos, let me explain a little bit about how Tekken's combo mechanics work. Tekken's combo system follows the following formula. You have your launcher, your damaging filler moves, tornado, and then your ender. After you launch someone in Tekken, every hit in the air sends them back farther and farther. So some strings and attacks will no longer connect the longer the combo goes on. I talked about tornadoes earlier. The main point is that it stabilizes your combo so that you can really set up that big ender. Remember, there's only one tornado you can do per combo. So if your launcher is what we call an instant tornado, your best bet is to just do as much filler as you can and then go for your ender. You can also use a heat burst or a heat dash to extend your combo, but not both. If you heat burst and then try to heat dash, you get a floppy flip over that doesn't guarantee much. You can mix and match the order of your tornado and heat extender, so experiment. Or just copy better players like I do. Part of the fun of Tekken's combo system is adjusting combos on the fly to account for how close we are to the walls. If you plan well, you can set up a high damage wall ender, and this can be the difference between winning and losing a round. Just like regular combos, most wall enders are well labbed and studied, and you can just copy them. What I want to do here is help you build intuition for how the walls function. After your opponent hits the wall, you get 3 hits before they start slumping down really fast. After that point, you can't really get more hits unless you're doing a fast string. This Law combo is a great example. His jabs are so fast that they connect even with the fast slump. If you get a high wall splat, you can actually get 4 hits total, but only if you're fast enough. Finally, if your opponent is about to hit the ground but barely catches the wall, we call this a low splat, and you only get 2 hits. Notice how the ending hit on Jin's combo here will whiff on the low splat. On a regular wall splat though, it works fine. Tornadoes at the wall do not count towards the wall hit limit. If you're starting a combo at the wall, using a 1-hit tornado move before the wall combo is free damage. Last thing, there are different stage hazards that you can use in combos. Triggering a stage hazard does not use up a wall hit, but your wall hits are saved from any previous wall hits. That's why this balcony break combo drops. And finally, hard breaks require 2 hits, but since tornadoes don't count as your wall hit, they don't count towards hard break hits either. So those are all the basics to Tekken. What's next? Well, first, let me leave you with a couple resources. There's a Tekken 8 frame bot that will be in many discords. It's one of the fastest ways to look up frame data and is great when you're in a training session or even a ranked match to try and figure out something really quickly. The other best frame data resource is a place called Geppopotamus. The website might not be fully up to date yet, but they were the #1 resource for Tekken 7. Not only do they have frame data with pictures, they have all the patch history and all of the move properties. Things like how many frames can you delay a string? When is a string counter hit confirmable? All of these tiny details that really matter, they have notes on all of that. Use it when you're researching character move lists. Aside from that, here's my beginner checklist. Step 1, find a character that you think is cool. You'll be learning so much and getting beat up so much that it's most important that you find someone that you'll stick with. The vibes really matter. Number 2, spend time moving around and getting comfortable in the engine. Arcade mode is great for this. You get to remove the PvP component and just feel out what fighting feels like. I know some pros that use arcade mode to warm up before tournaments. In the punishment section, I mentioned the 4 key punishes to learn: from standing, your 10 frame and your 15 frame launch punish, and then from crouching, your 11 frame and your 15 frame launch punish, both while standing. Your combos should stem from those punishes, so learn your 15 frame standing punish and the combo, and your 15 frame while standing punish and the combo. You can also learn a couple counter hit combos that your character is likely to hit. Don't forget to learn your throw breaks. Again, I'll put out a video giving you a training routine. It doesn't have to be long. I'm talking like 5 minutes a day. And after a little bit of time, it'll be second nature to break throws. Finally, hop into matches and have fun. If you're super serious about getting better, my one recommendation would be don't look away from any problems you identify. If you're weak to a string or weak to a character, don't put it off for later. Take a look at it, take notes, and revisit it frequently. It may feel like you have something mastered in practice mode, and then you hop into a match and it becomes hard to apply. So you'll have to keep refining it, and that process takes a long time. So the sooner you start, the sooner you'll master it. Also, I had nowhere else to put this, but if you're struggling to hit 2 buttons at the same time, Tekken has a system called button buffering. If you press 1 and then press 2 while continuing to hold 1, the game registers it as 1 plus 2. You can look up button buffering videos for more info on this topic. And if you stuck around this long, thank you. Leave a like if this was helpful, and let me know in the comments if you have any questions or if I missed anything. If you have nothing to say, leave an emoji. That helps a lot. I'll catch you in the next video. Peace.